This is a memory from my childhood that stayed with me for a long time. I was about 7 or 8 years old. My mom would usually take my brother and me trick-or-treating, but that year after school she dropped me off at my friend Shawn's house. Shawn, our friend Johnny, and I had planned to go trick-or-treating together. Johnny and Shawn were a bit older than me. I'd met them while playing on the block with my brother. Shawn lived nearby, just around the corner. His family was a bit unusual, but I never really thought about it much. Shawn's older sister, who was about 20, was like his caretaker. Every time I was at his place, the house had this odd smell, like it was filled with cats, and his sister always seemed to have a different guy over. She never said hello or really noticed me. She just gave this distant stare, as if she wasn't really there. His dad was never around, and his mom was usually out of town for work. I'd only seen her a couple of times. Anyway, my mom left me there, thinking Shawn's mom would take us trick-or-treating. But once I said goodbye and stepped inside, I realized that neither Shawn's mom nor his sister was planning to go along. I felt a little uneasy. Johnny and Shawn were going to lead the way. But at the same time, I was excited about the freedom we had. Deep down, though, I knew my mom wouldn't have approved. We started going from house to house with big pillowcases, hoping to fill them up with candy. Some people asked us where our parents were, and every time Johnny would say, "My mom is up ahead with my sister." It seemed to work. It was a Friday night, and we were determined to keep going until our bags were full. After a few hours, we stopped back at Shawn's, heated some frozen pizzas, and watched Halloween specials on Nickelodeon. Then, Johnny got picked up by his mom, but Shawn and I still wanted to keep going. It was dark now, probably past 8 p.m. Hardly anyone was out, but we decided to explore a quieter side of the neighborhood. That's when we saw him, a man with a stroller, slowly walking in our direction. At first, I thought he was just a dad trick-or-treating with his kid. But he kept getting closer. We could hear him softly shushing and humming to himself. Something felt off. Eventually, he was close enough to say, "Hey boys, having fun?" We nodded, feeling uneasy. Then he added, "I have some extra candy at my house. Want some?" Shawn looked at me, his eyes lighting up. "What kind?" he asked. The man smiled, saying, "All kinds. Bags of them. I didn't get to hand out much tonight, since I was out with my daughter." He pointed to the stroller. The cover was pulled down so we couldn't see inside. He said she was asleep, so he didn't want to disturb her. But something didn't feel right. He pointed up ahead, saying, "My house is just this way." Hesitantly, we followed. He kept asking us questions, like what school we went to, where we lived. Shawn did most of the talking, but I just couldn't shake the bad feeling in my stomach. When we got to his house, he invited us inside, saying he'd go get the candy. Shawn stepped in first, and I followed, my heart racing. I asked if we could keep the door open, and he paused, then said, "Yeah, of course." He pushed the stroller into the living room, leaving us standing by the door. Shawn went over to it, lifting the cover a little to see the baby inside. Then, he froze, his face turning pale. He turned to me, whispering, "Let's go now." Without a second thought, we dashed out the door. My pillowcase full of candy felt so heavy, slowing me down as we ran. Suddenly, a woman's voice called out, "Hey, do you boys know that man?" Shawn quickly told her everything, including what we'd seen in the stroller. She looked shocked and said, "He doesn't have any children." She quickly ushered us to her car and drove us home. The whole drive back, I couldn't stop feeling cold inside. When we got home, she explained everything to my mom, who was furious and immediately called the police. She sent me to my room, and to this day, she never told me what happened after. I barely saw Shawn after that night, and our friendship drifted. That was the last time I ever went trick-or-treating alone.